Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. I pray that you all are doing well. Inshallah, mashallah. I see the, mashallah. I see the luminous faces of my brothers, the fellow faculty members at Al-Maqasid. So, inshallah, we will begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa afdalu salah wa atamu taslim. على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله وصحبه حق قدره ومقداره العظيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته everyone, and thank you for joining us for our information session, which is part of the Al-Maqasid Seminary full-time program, the year 1 classical Arabic offering, as well as year 2, the foundational Islamic sciences. So my name is Amjad Tarsin. I am a faculty member at Al-Maqasid, and inshallah we'll just be introducing the program tonight and then passing it over to our faculty members and our head of student life, inshallah ta'ala, who will then walk you through some of the areas that they're going to be talking about, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers, inshallah ta'ala. So Al-Maqasid seeks to be a seminary that provides full-time, part-time, online, and community programs. And at the core, at the heart of what we're doing is really providing the prophetic inheritance so that people can connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they can benefit from sacred knowledge that is truly enriching and gives life to the heart, and that they can be sources of benefit and goodness for others in society and across the world, inshallah ta'ala. The way that we seek to do that is through the programs that we offer. So there are a variety of programs. I won't talk about all of them right now, but rather we'll focus now on the full-time seminary, which we have 2 years currently. Year 1 is the classical Arabic program, and Ustad Hassan Petrus is the main instructor for that program, along with a few others. And he'll walk us through some of the details related to the classical Arabic program, the curriculum, the methodology that we use. And it's actually a very exciting and effective way of study. And then Ustad Umar Popal will talk about year 2, the foundational Islamic sciences, accessing hadith and tafsir and Quran and various other classical Islamic texts in the Arabic language. So that's our goal in year 2. And then inshallah we'll have our dear brother Imran Sameja talk about some of the aspects related to student life, such as lodging and living on campus and other kinds of considerations, inshallah ta'ala. We thank you all for joining us, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill this gathering with blessings and benefit. And inshallah, without further ado, I will hand it over to Ustad Hassan Petrus to give us insights into the year 1 classical Arabic program. Jazakumullah kul khair. Assalamu alaikum.
MashaAllah, thank you for all joining. We're very happy to have you all. I just need to share my screen. Can I have that enabled? It's disabled for me. So can I have the admin just quickly enable me to share?
Yeah, maybe you can just give a brief introduction, and I'll follow up with Ummah.
Yeah, no problem. So Bismillah. So as Ustad Amjad mentioned, that the first year of the seminary is dedicated to learning Arabic, and Arabic is really the key to sacred knowledge. And I personally feel that there's only a limit that someone can reach when they study sacred knowledge in English or any other language, but Arabic really unlocks so much, not just in terms of the understandings of the text itself, but the different commentaries, the different aspects, so many different subtleties. So Arabic is really that key that unlocks all of that. And so year one is dedicated solely to Arabic, and we approach it not just as the language of the Quran, but we approach it as the language of the tafsir of the Quran, of all the different works and scholarship that the student will now have access to once they have a good grasp, a good command of the Arabic. And so, Bismillah. So, Arabic, of course, is a sacred language, and its study is essential to in-depth knowledge of Islam. And the way that we teach it in Al-Maqasid is we try to focus on what's called comprehensible input. And comprehensible input, it's a different method, or it's a different approach to the way that people learn languages. But it's essentially the way that we all learned a language from our parents, or a second language, is that it all relates to understanding messages that make sense to us. So it's not the same as learning about a language and all the details and the rulings of a language. It's not grammar focused in the beginning, but it's more focused on understanding the hiwar, understanding the dialogues, understanding different aspects, and then building from there. And yes, we do cover a lot of grammar and a lot of morphology, but something I realized as of late is that a lot of language acquisition doesn't come from learning rules of grammar, right? Learning rules of grammar does not convert into having a solid grasp of the language. Rather, I would say that the secret of learning a language is in the literature, like really looking at beautifully written works, is that you start to, some of this person's expressions start to wear off on you. So this is, in a sum, this is what this idea of comprehensible input and revolves around. And I have this quote here, a beautiful quote by the fatherhead of comprehensible input. His name was Stephen Krashen. He said that we acquire language in only one way, and in one way, and only in one way, when we understand messages. He says we call this comprehensible input. We acquire language when we understand what people tell us, not how they say it, but what they say. And he also says in another beautiful quote, he says, picking up word meanings by reading, right, context, is 10 times faster than intensive vocabulary instruction. So what you'll find with the Arabic program is very hands-on. Students will get up, right? We'll have a hiwar that we practice. There'll be a lot of explanations, and okay, good, great. Okay, great. There'll be a lot of different explanations, right? And it's very language centered. There's a lot of, it's very hands-on. It's not, we try our best to make it an active learning experience and not a passive learning experience, right? I want students to ask questions. I want students to engage with the material, to learn the material, to ask questions in Arabic, so on and so forth. So that's a little bit about our methodology. And then the way that we implement the methodology is through the curriculum. And the curriculum that we've chosen is known as, we call it the Jamiatul Imam series. And it's a very comprehensive series. There are 4 levels in the series, levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in the first year of the seminary, the Arabic portion, the students get up to level 3.5. So level 3.5. And then when they come for the second year, the remaining part of level 3 and level 4 is completed. And then students begin to start their Arabic studies, studying the texts in Arabic. And it starts off for absolute beginners. So it starts off with this book known as Kitab al-Suwar, which is literally just pictures. There's no writing, and there's just pictures. And it focuses on students' listening skills. So for example, a class will look like this. So with this picture here.
السؤال عن المهنة. يوسف. مساء الخير. محمود. مساء النور. يوسف. ما مهنتك؟ محمود. أنا مدرس.
So it's very simple concepts, but within that, there's a lot of very simple context, but within that, there's a lot of important concepts. In addition to that, focus in the beginning on reading and writing correctly. So here's an example of
ثالثا
just going over
اقرأ
the dictionary and going over each word and making sure that the words are pronounced correctly, and this is very important. So here's an example of the first stage in the book of reading and writing.
واكتب صغير صغير غفور غفور مشغول.
Good. And then it moves on. You get to Kitab al-Ta'bir, which is level 1, which the basic structure is you have the recording, you listen to it, you have the hiwar, which is the conversation, you memorize the conversation, you have the pictures that correspond to it, and then you have the new words. So each chapter, each unit is similar to this. So for example, this is about wudu. So here's the example of the hiwar, the conversation.
كيف أتوضأ؟ الحوار الابن إلى أين يا والدي؟ الأب إلى المسجد لأداء الصلاة. الابن خذني معك يا أبي. الأب هيا توضأ.
So good. And then from there, level 2 and level 3. So once students get to level 2, the following books are studied. So there's Quran, which is basic tafsir, going through the meanings of the last few surahs, and everything's in Arabic, right? Word for word, very simple explanation. Hadith, very small hadith that are explained in Arabic. The book of Ta'bir, which is expressions, which is really important because when you learn a language, you want to be able to express that language the way that the speakers of that language express themselves. Right? So it's not based on translation, but it's based on the expressions that are from the language itself. And then you have the book of reading, and there's really interesting different texts that are selected. You read about Imam al-Shafi'i, you read about William Bell and his discovery of the phone, you read about Hajj, you read about Ibn Jarir al-Tabari. There's so many different topics in the reading. They're nice, sweet, and short. Writing, there's 2 parts. There's a handwriting practice book where you continue working on your writing skills. And then there's the writing conventions. So for example, some letters are pronounced, but they're not written, and vice versa. And then grammar, nahu, and then morphology, conjugation. So that's level 2. So it's quite a load, right? Within the week, students are studying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different subjects. But alhamdulillah, it's manageable. And then level 3, it's the same thing, except that literature and fiqh is added to the bunch, and just tied into that. So how does this all fit into the schedule? So here's a breakdown of the schedule. So for example, on Monday, we start with the main 2 books are the books of expression, ta'bir, and reading, qira'ah. Right? So we have, it starts at 8:30. Monday, reading. In between, there's 15-minute breaks, kitab al-ta'bir, expression, then there's lunch and dhuhr, and then Quran and writing, or hadith and writing, is going to be after dhuhr. So the main books are right there, the first 3 periods, and then usually Quran or hadith or writing is going to be after dhuhr. So in that way, if somebody cannot commit to the whole 5 hours, we have a part-time option where students can commit to 8:30 to 12 o'clock. That's the part-time option, is that it's 3 hours for those who can't do the full 5 hours, from 8:30 to 12 o'clock. And the learning outcomes for those who are familiar with the actual knowledge, breakdown, is that it should take us to equivalent to an intermediate, mid-high level of proficiency. So alhamdulillah, I'll just end with this. But we had students that came in not knowing anything. They didn't know the alphabet. They learned the alphabet from scratch. They learned, and they came with us like that. And now, mashallah, it's really beautiful to see them in year 2. They're actually understanding the books in Arabic with very little English. So it's quite exciting, and it's beautiful to see that growth. And it all comes from putting in that hard work in year 1 and really getting a good grasp, a solid grasp of the language, and everything else is built on that. So that's a little synopsis of what year 1 looks like in terms of the schedule and the curriculum and the methodology.
Jazakumullah kull khair, Ustad Hassan. Inshallah, we can transition now to a little bit about year 2 with Ustad Umar Popal.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope everyone can see me, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslima. Welcome everyone to this information session. Jazakallah khair, Ustad Hassan, for that wonderful breakdown of year one. I just want to add, mashallah, that it's really an honor and a joy to work aside Ustad Hassan. He really brings not only a passion for the language, but a really creative way of teaching. And so anyone who's inshallah interested in applying for year one, I think you really have a special gift in the teacher who is responsible for year one. Alhamdulillah. That takes us to year two, mashallah. And year two, as you can see here, we called it, and if my voice gets cut off or if the screen disappears, please just let me know. But we've called it the Foundational Islamic Sciences. So in year one, that you have now, inshallah, acquired the tools that you need, or you could say the majority of the tools that you need to be able to now understand the Islamic sciences in their original language of Arabic. So it's really like an amazing task, right? And it's an amazing opportunity. So the first thing we want to speak about today is the curriculum. That what is it in year two that a student who either applies directly to year two if they have previous experience, or a student who finishes year one is going to year two, what would they study? They would spend the first 2 months completing level 3. And we have level 4 here, but they would finish essentially the first 2 months completing level 3 with selections from level 4. And what does that look like? They would be studying the same sciences that Ustad Hassan mentioned. So you have the science of ta'bir, expression of Arabic, kind of polishing what you already learned in years 1 and 2, in year 1, and adding on to your depth of vocabulary, your depth of knowledge in how to articulate and use sentences with that vocabulary. You will get a lot of reading practice and a lot of reading exposure, which is just foundational in one's building of the language. You would continue your studies of the Quran with a deeper look at some of the surahs in Juz Amma, in the 30th Juz of the Quran. You would continue again in Arabic, studying hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, along with studying other subjects, as you can see here, such as writing, right? So really not just handwriting, but the principles of how to write Arabic. You would be studying a basic introduction in Arabic of the science of Islamic law, fiqh. You would deepen your understanding and your study of the science of grammar and morphology. So of the Imam series, the curriculum that Al-Maqasid is using, you would complete level 3. All right, you would totally complete level 3 with a few selections from level 4. And that would be your first 2 months as a year 2 student at Al-Maqasid. The rest of your time at Al-Maqasid during the second year is going to be a study of the foundational Islamic sciences. And at Al-Maqasid, we base our curriculum on the curriculum that is found at the prestigious Islamic Seminary in southern Yemen, the city of Tarim, Dar al-Mustafa. So Dar al-Mustafa has a curriculum for their foundational studies, you could call it their year 1 of their seminary, called Ibtidaiya, which literally means their beginning year. And so we base our curriculum off that. So what does that look like? We have the sciences of Quran and tafsir, right? And the textbooks, you could call them, that we use for Quran and tafsir, such as the tafsir of Imamain al-Jalalain. This is not only a traditional book, but this is a book that is studied in Islamic seminaries for the past a couple hundred years in many different parts of the world. So if someone wanted to go on to study at Azhar, or if they wanted to go on to study at a seminary in India or Pakistan, or if they wanted to go to the Arab world, Jalalain is known. MashaAllah, you begin your study of hadith in Arabic along with hadith memorization through various books of hadith. You study fiqh either in the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa or in the madhab of Imam Shafi'i with traditional books that have been studied for hundreds of years. You begin your study of the science of Islamic belief, aqidah, and mashallah, you begin your study of the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all in Arabic. And it's just, you could ask, current students at Al-Maqasid that the studying the Prophet's life in English versus studying his life in the language he spoke, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's a completely different experience. You begin your study of purification of the heart through the science of tasawwuf from the books of Imam al-Ghazali and others. And there are also subjects on history, a study of the biography of the companions, and also you would study a text in the science of calling to Allah or da'wah. And so in year 2, it's much more than just, a study of the Arabic language. It is a holistic study of Islam through Arabic, the sciences, and of course, the environment which Al-Maqasid is in. Really quickly, just want to show you all what a sample schedule looks like. In the first 2 months, where you are still studying the Imam series, the schedule, again, as you can see here, it's highly Arabic focused. But when you shift over to the Islamic studies, then we get a much different schedule where we study Arabic first period, fiqh second period, tazkiyah and hadith third period. Obviously they switch day by day. In fourth period, one day you'll have seerah, one day you'll have aqidah, and then fifth period you'll be studying tafsir every day. So it's really an immense opportunity. Another benefit is that on Sundays, you have the opportunity to memorize Quran and really practice and perfect your tajweed under the Imam of Al-Maqasid, mashallah, Sayyid Abdul Fattah, is an amazing Qari, reciter of the Quran, Hafiz of the Quran. And so that's a summary of what one will study in year 2 at Al-Maqasid. I do want to add briefly that, hope people can still see me, I'm not sure what happened here. I want to add briefly that as far as learning outcomes go, what you will get in that second year of Al-Maqasid will suffice you if all you want to do now is go on and continue your life, whether it be professionally or whatever field you're in. It will suffice you in bettering yourself, getting closer to Allah, and helping others where you can. But if you want to continue your studies in the field of Islamic studies, it is a great starting point, and will, inshallah, Allah willing, really help you anywhere you go. So that is a summary of what we study at year 2 in Al-Maqasid, and we're open to any questions, comments from anyone who's attending, or even in the future, if anyone who's watching this later on. Jazakallah khair.
Okay, so inshallah, now we will transition to student life with Imran, Brother Imran Sameja.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome all prospective students. We're very, very excited to have you guys join us today. I am following some very prestigious individuals here, so I will do my best to keep up. But inshallah, I represent student life and student activities. I'm one of the coordinators. There's 3 of us on the team. And the other 2 individuals is Brother Sean Kabalsi. He's one of the coordinators alongside myself, as well as Sister Alia Klockman. She represents a little bit more towards the sisters end. But the student life in general, the whole point and the process that we put together for student life is a little bit beyond or an extension of the seminary in itself. The reason why we call it an extension of that is because what you're creating, these bonds that you're creating, this brotherhood and sisterhood with your peers, is something that's going to last on for the remainder of your life. These are the moments, these are the events that are really going to shape you as an individual. It's going to shape your path of, the way your deen kind of flourishes throughout your life. So our goal with the seminary in terms of student life is to create this environment where you're bonding with your peers, you're bonding with your teachers, and you're bonding with the community. We do many different activities. We'll do excursions where we're going to certain areas, around the state. Sometimes we go out of the state just to, for those of you who are not from the Pennsylvania area. We also do, game nights right on the grounds. And the most recent game night we had was a lot of fun. And two of the teachers were there as well. So it's really nice to kind of compete with them and see them in a different light. It wasn't just, there are teachers, and yes, we obviously have respect, but we got to compete with them, which was a lot of fun. So what we try to do is create those bonds, across the board to really, be an extension to what you are learning and acquiring throughout this whole process. Whether you're year one or year two, it's really nice to kind of get, outside of the learning process a little bit. Most recently we are planning a trip out into the New York area to the gravesite of Malcolm X, which is a great opportunity to learn a lot of his life and what he created, what he paved for us, in this country especially. So those are things that we try to do where it's exciting, it's memorable. There's obviously a learning component to it, but it really kind of solidifies what Al-Maqasid is, what we truly believe in, and how we want this brotherhood and sisterhood to be able to last for a lifetime. We've done community events as well, so you've got to meet community members, families, people who are maybe of your own age. If you're coming over with children, you kind of create these bonds with the community as well. So this way you have resources, not just within the, within your classroom setting. So there's a lot of different exciting things that we like to do here. We try to think a little bit outside of the box, just to make sure that it's exciting for everyone and it kind of caters to everyone's needs. In addition to that, we do provide lodging assistance to the students. If you are coming from afar and there's no lodging, we do have a cottage for the brothers, and then we do try to get you in touch with specific realtors or community members who can provide housing outside of that. So inshallah, if there is something that you guys would like to do in terms of housing, or if you need the housing, please feel free to reach out to us. The seminary director, Malik, she does a wonderful job at assisting the students. So inshallah, that would work. But that's student life. It's a great time. We laugh, we create memories. We see each other at Jamab, we see each other at the Molids, and it's really nice to be able to add that little flair to everything that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Now, I will say you are busy. The student life activities will not get you out of homework. It will not get you out of any of those assignments that you have to do. So please keep that in mind. I don't have a golden ticket to be able to get you out of there. However, the teachers do understand that we do have these events. Usually it's about once a month. And they do like to partake in it. But again, I cannot get you out of homework. That is the one thing I cannot do. But inshallah, that's pretty much it from my side. I would like to turn it over to Malik just to talk a little bit about admissions, just so this way you have a better idea of how you can start that process.
MashaAllah, thank you so much, Brother Imran. Alhamdulillah, I think most of you have already contacted us through the website and or have registered for our information sessions online. So I assume most of you have some knowledge of our website, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all just to show you the process, inshallah. So on our website, if you go to almaqasid.org/seminary, you'll be taken to this page, which initially actually has all of the hyperlinks to everything you need to know. But the important things that I want to highlight is our application, which is found right here. and then our frequently asked questions in the seminary context so that you know how to contact us. So for the application, I would recommend that you put aside about half an hour or so, perhaps 15 minutes if you know you need to take a little bit longer to work on your application. But it does require a lot of background information regarding your current studies, and then some uploads that you will need to provide with a statement, and then some references for us as well. And this is the first step of the process. So you'll apply here, you'll give us your references. Our admissions committee will review your application. They will contact your references and then set up an interview to speak with you just to kind of, you know, answer any questions and ask you some questions and make sure that this process is a good fit for you at this time, inshallah. And once that's done, you'll receive hopefully an acceptance letter from us, inshallah. And then some steps on what you need to do, such as taking a placement test, and if you need assistance with financial aid or scholarships and so on and so forth. And so that will be a separate application as well. If that's something that you need more information on, you can definitely contact us. All of you have my contact email. And so you can email me and I can provide you with that application, inshallah. And then the second thing that I want to highlight is the frequently asked questions. We are going to try to answer as many questions as we can today, but a lot of the questions that do come in are actually found here for the most part. So I do recommend that you review that, inshallah, and then we're happy to answer anything else that might come up, inshallah. So that's all I have for the admissions process. I'll go ahead and open the floor for any questions at this time. I know we've already had one question come in from Sister Halima, but if you do have any other questions, please feel free to send them in the chat box, or if you raise your hand, we can call on you and you can unmute yourself and go ahead and answer that question, inshallah, or ask that question. I apologize. Ustad Omar, if you don't mind answering the question regarding Sister Halima's.
Yep. So the question is year 2 geared towards training, educating future imams? It's a great question. And it definitely is, in that every imam is going to need to have their foundational knowledge of Islamic studies. Every Islamic educator or imam. You know, the scholarly standards are quite high, so it's not sufficient to take, you know, just 1 year of Islamic studies to be considered a scholar. You have to go on either at Al-Maqasid or another institute and continue your studies. But definitely year 2 will give you the grounding that you need to then become an imam or an educator or a scholar.
Thank you, Ustad Omar. If anyone else has any questions, this would be a good time to inquire about that, inshallah.
I think we have a question.
Ustad Hassan, would you like to take this question?
You're on mute, Habib.
Right. Sorry about that. Is it the same application process to apply for year 2? Essentially, yes. But for year 2, we have to assess the student's level of Arabic. So if a student previously studied Arabic and they're at a good level, we'll send a placement test. And if we see that their level is comparable with the students of year 1, then they could join year 2. So year 2, to join year 2 directly, there's a requirement that the student must be at a similar level to what the year 1, to what the students look like at the end of year 1. So, but besides that, the application, besides that extra placement test, the application is, it's the same, essentially.
I just wanted to kind of piggyback off that. So it's the same application. There's an extra placement test, and then there might be a kind of Zoom or phone interview as well.
Right.
I'll take that next question as well. So is there an average age of students or pretty diverse? Yeah, I would say it's quite diverse. Is that Hassan?
It's quite diverse, but the minimum age is age 18. So students have to be 18 plus, unless there's an exception, but the exception, there's a lot of considerations. So it's 18 plus. But there are students that are, we have students that are elder in age, and mashallah, it's really inspirational to see that the commitment that they have, that, they might even be grandparents and they still show up every day and they're committed. But so there is a lot of diversity, but this is an adult program.
That next question, I can kind of like a similar question. So are we able to enroll in just year one, or do we have to do both years? And the other sister also asked that, what if I just want to learn Arabic? So the whole program is 2 years. If someone is only able to do 1 year, they should still definitely do it, because the amount of Arabic that you will get in that 1 year, as long as you put in your work and you put in your time, it is an amount that will give you access to Islamic texts with a dictionary, and it will also grant you basic levels of speech if you were to travel overseas to another institution, etc. So it's definitely worth doing. Not even worth doing. It gives you an immense amount of Arabic. And what we've seen is that students who were only interested in the year one, by the end of it, they really wanted to go to year two, because once you have all these tools, now you get to use them, right? Now you get to use them in year one as well, of course, but you get to further them in year two. But as far as how does online work, there's not an online component to the Al-Maqasid classical Arabic program. It is in person. Would you like to add anything, Hassan, on top
No,
of that?
I think that's good.
It mentions online on the website.
This other maybe that's referring to those other programs, but the actual full-time full-time seminary is only in person.
Yeah, that's correct. If you refer to our FAQs, it does answer that question, and that our seminary program is only in person. Most of our other programs are found online. Perhaps you're confusing the Firm Foundation class, which is part of the seminary program, but live streamed online, and students are able to partake online. So maybe that's where that was.
And then Sister Sumaya with the question, international students, maybe you can address that.
Sure. So we don't take care of any of the legal aspects of paperwork into coming to the US. We don't provide any type of student visas of any sort, but we do have students that come from many different backgrounds from the US and outside of the US. As long as you have proper paperwork to be here, you're allowed to join our program, inshallah. Okay.
Oh, so what is the level of interaction between students and teachers, as well as potentially, yes. Yeah, the level of interaction is, I would say, very high. Classes are, generally speaking, there's about 12 students to 15 students, depending on the batch, but it's very personal. So there's a lot of back and forth inside the class and outside the class as well. And we definitely do have office hours, and we have a website where you can just book our office hours, and the students here, the teachers here are always there for the students. We try our best to be there for the students. So I'd say that the level of interaction is very high, alhamdulillah. I'd say all the teachers here have very good relationships with all of the students. And like I said, Imran was saying, like on the outings, the teachers are there. It's a very close and very beautiful relationship. You want to answer Mary's question, Said Omar?
No, just actually to piggyback off that previous question as well. I actually think that one of the hallmarks of studying it at Al-Maqasid is the student-teacher relationship, because if you're at a kind of much larger seminary, then it is kind of hard to have that relationship. So it's really nice. Alhamdulillah. It's one of my personal favorite things as being a teacher at Al-Maqasid. As far as our current or former students, what are they going on to do after completing the program? Many of them have gone and will go on to pursue more Islamic studies at various places, such as Dar al-Mustafa in Tarim or other institutions. And there are others, I'm not sure at the moment, who might just remain in the States and continue if they have a profession or whatever that is they may be doing. But it's really nice that, you know, once you finish a program like this, the opportunities really are immense. And at the very least, if you don't want to take any opportunity, you spent a year, 2 years of your life immersing yourself in the Islamic tradition, the tradition of seeking knowledge, and have given yourself the tool to draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a much deeper level.
The next question is very important. Would you still advise entry Arabic reading and writing course if one just knows how to read Arabic? It depends. So we have to hear, there is a basic placement test, and that's just it's more just a reading sample. So all applicants will send in that placement test, and we just need to assess their level. And we'd say that if a student can read at a 70% or higher, then they don't need to necessarily take the introductory Arabic and reading program. But if it's less than 70, if it's 65 or less or 70, then we do require that they take the introductory Arabic reading and writing program, and that starts July 1st, and that is online. So the introductory reading, that's the only prerequisite that we have for students joining the Arabic program, is that they have to know how to read and write Arabic. And if they don't know how to read and write Arabic, then they have to join the summer program that starts July 1st, and it's online, and that's the introductory reading and writing program. So the details about that program can be found on the website as well.
Malik, if you want to take that question about the graduation, I'm not sure if I understand.
Sure. So I would say at least 95% of our students graduate from the program. We've had very few students needing to take a pause for personal or family reasons and defer a year. But otherwise, alhamdulillah, I think all of our students who commit to the program end up doing the program. Okay, so I'll just give another maybe minute or so to see if we'll receive any other questions, inshallah. And if not, we can proceed with a dua. But it does look like we have a question that has just come in. Oh, mashallah, this is a great question.
Go ahead.
How have past students managed working and going to school, opportunities to find a job near the school? Malik, bismillah.
I think this ties into we do offer scholarships. So there are limited amounts of scholarships that are provided as long as the student applies for them. And alhamdulillah, I don't think anybody who ever needed help, I think everyone who ever needed help received that help that they need. And in general, definitely to do the full-time program, there can't be any other commitments. It's just not possible. A lot of the learning takes place not in the classroom, but outside the classroom, following up on exercises, thinking about the material, reviewing the material. So with the full-time program, the 5 hours, I don't see how someone can balance that with any other significant commitment. If it's a part-time program, I guess that has to be looked at on an individual basis. It still might be a little bit difficult to accommodate, but not necessarily impossible. Not necessarily impossible. It's going to take a lot of work though. But if somebody is in need of a scholarship, as it's mentioned on the website, there are limited scholarships available for students. So that's an important.
Yeah, the recommendation is that students are full-time students at this point. Again, exceptions can be made, but our recommendation is that you come and that you dedicate this time to studying, especially in year one where there's a lot of learning happening, whereas in year two you are building. So sometimes people might take like a weekend shift or something. But again, we highly recommend that students just come to study at this point. Okay, Bismillah. So I think we will go ahead and conclude here. Okay, we have one more question.
Mashallah.
For myself, oh, go ahead.
No, Bismillah, Bismillah.
I would just say, really, the highlight, I think in every year, really, but particularly last year, is to see the growth of the students. So it's really amazing to see how students enter. And last year, particularly, we had a lot of what we call absolute beginners, so people that started with us, literally not knowing alif, ba, and ta. They've never even seen. One brother, he actually converted like 2 or 3 months before joining the program in summer. And if you were to see his level now, I think you'd be amazed. He's very hardworking, not just him, but all of them. So I think just seeing that growth take place, it's a very satisfying, and it's something very beautiful to watch. It's like watching, growth. Watching growth, I think, is a very beautiful thing. So that would definitely be one of the biggest highlights for myself.
Yeah, I was going to, mashallah, Ustad hasn't said it much better words than me about growth. But I guess if I could choose another one outside of seeing students grow, just the camaraderie between the brothers and the sisters and the sisters. It's just a really beautiful camaraderie. Like I'll be teaching class and I'll ask a question, and you can tell one student wants to help the other student, and then like after class they take out time to sit with each other and review, and it's really nice, and that I believe is part of what it means to be a student of the Islamic sciences. That you're not just studying by yourself on your own, but rather you're part of a community of students and of seekers of knowledge. So,
yeah, and that camaraderie, as Imran was mentioning, it's not just in the classroom, and also within the larger community. You meet people take you to the house, you spend time with them. So it's, mashallah, that's a very good point as well. So I think Ustad Amjad's going to end with the dua.
So inshallah, Oman, should we wrap up?
Yes, please. If one of our teachers can conclude with a dua, that would be wonderful. And for all those attending, thank you so much. And inshallah, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, either email us or the contact form on our website, inshallah.
Ameen, Ustad Hassan, Ameen.
No, Ustad Amjad, right? Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. We ask Allah that He bless us in this endeavor, and that He bless us with beneficial knowledge, and that we're able to translate that knowledge into accepted action, and that He make the path of paradise easy for us, as the Prophet said, that the path of paradise is easy for the seeker of knowledge, and that He bless us with knowledge of Him and coming closer to Him, and that He bless everyone that attending or that's listening on this Institute Al-Maqasid, and may He allow it to reach the highest maqasid, the highest objectives, and that we reach these objectives in the dunya and in the akhirah. Wa akhir da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wal fatiha.
Jazakumullah khairan. Inshallah, we look forward to receiving your applications online, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh.